Have you ever felt frustrated because you know exactly what you want, but just can't seem to get moving? You have ambition, dreams, goals, a vision of who you could become. But when it's time to take action, something pulls you back. The couch wins, your phone wins. I'll do it later becomes a habit, and slowly life passes you by, while laziness disguised as comfort steals everything you could have achieved. Here's the brutal truth. Laziness isn't just a bad habit, it's a mental trap. And if you don't learn to master it now, you'll keep sabotaging yourself year after year, while others live the life you wanted. But here's the secret few people tell you. You don't need more motivation. You need principles, conscious action, discipline with purpose. And this, the ancient Stoics already knew. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus faced wars, loss, slavery, and persecution. Yet they stayed focused, strong, and clear-headed. They had something many lack today: self-mastery. In this video, you'll discover 5 Stoic practices, simple but powerful, that can free you from chronic laziness, reignite your energy, and put you back in control of your life. So if you're tired of promising yourself change but never following through, if you want to stop self-sabotaging and finally take action toward your goals, stay with me until the end. What you learn here could be the turning point between another wasted year or the beginning of your transformation. Let's begin. Act even when you don't feel like it. Feelings don't run your life. This is the foundation of self-mastery, the cornerstone of discipline, the starting point for any real transformation. If you want to beat laziness, hit your goals, or truly change your life, you need to understand this with brutal clarity. You won't feel inspired every day. And guess what? It doesn't matter, because action isn't a consequence of motivation. Motivation is a consequence of action. This one shift changes everything. We live in an era that worships inspiration. Social media sells the idea that success comes when you find the right motivation, the higher purpose, the perfect mood. But that's a lie disguised as romance. Feelings are volatile. Some days you wake up energized. Other days you don't want to get out of bed. If you depend on your emotions to act, your life will become a cycle of inconsistency, highs and lows with no real progress. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of history's greatest Stoics, wrote, "Were you born to curl up under the blankets? No, you were born for action." Even amid wars, betrayals, and unimaginable pressure, he reminded himself, do what needs to be done and do it well, regardless of how you feel. This principle isn't just ancient wisdom. David Goggins, former Navy SEAL, ultramarathon runner, and a symbol of resilience, is living proof. He doesn't move by motivation. He moves by commitment. He runs miles in the cold, in pain, exhausted, even when he hates it, because he understands what most don't. If you let your feelings dictate your actions, you'll never be free. Goggins puts it bluntly, motivation is garbage. It comes and goes. What keeps you in the game is discipline, and this isn't just philosophy or self-help. Neuroscience confirms it. Action changes your emotional state. The simple act of getting up, starting, doing, activates brain circuits that boost focus, energy, and purpose. Movement changes your mind. So if you wait to feel ready before acting, you've got the process backward. It's the action that creates momentum, not the other way around. Aristotle said it centuries before modern science. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. You become disciplined by practicing discipline, even when you don't feel like it. You don't need to transform yourself before you act. You transform yourself through action. So how do you apply this daily? Start with a non-negotiable minimum. Something so simple you can't justify skipping it. 10 minutes of reading, 5 minutes of exercise, one important task before lunch. Do it, even without motivation. make "I don't feel like it" irrelevant. When that thought arises, tell yourself, "So what?" It doesn't change what needs to be done. Use visual reminders, alarms, or mantras to reinforce your commitment. Discipline sets me free. Feelings don't dictate my destiny. I act even when I don't feel like it. And most importantly, celebrate the act of doing, not just the result. The victory is in showing up. The results come naturally to those who stay consistent. Most people are slaves to their internal fluctuations, motivated today, paralyzed tomorrow. But those who build, grow, and achieve have one thing in common. They act. Always. Even when they don't want to, and you can be one of them. Stop waiting for the perfect vibe. Stop negotiating with laziness. Stop trusting your feelings. Act. Now. Even without motivation, because when you master action, you begin, for the first time, to master your life. 2. Stop waiting for the right time. Act now. This is one of the most dangerous traps for anyone who wants to grow, change, or achieve something great. The idea that there's a perfect moment, ideal circumstances, or a magical emotional state where everything will flow easily. It's an illusion that paralyzes. It's procrastination in its most sophisticated disguise. Waiting for the right time is, most often, an excuse that sounds logical, but hides a silent fear. The fear of starting imperfectly. The fear of failing. The fear of discomfort. But here's the simple truth. People who act now with what they have, where they are, build the future others only imagine. You'll never have total clarity. You'll never have absolute confidence. You'll never have ideal resources. And if you wait for those to act, you'll spend your entire life rehearsing a change that never begins. Seneca, the great Stoic thinker, wrote, "While we waste time hesitating, life passes us by." That sentence should be a wake-up call for anyone delaying what they know they need to do. He also said, "It's not that life is short, it's that we waste too much of it." And one of the most sophisticated forms of waste. The habit of postponing what could be done now, believing the future will be more favorable, but that future rarely arrives as we expect. Look at history's greatest achievers, and you'll find one common trait. They didn't wait to feel ready. They started before clarity, before courage, before perfection. Steve Jobs started Apple in a garage. No structure, no major resources, just action. Oprah Winfrey began her career facing racism, sexism, and rejection. But she acted anyway. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, unsure if he'd ever get a second chance, yet he stayed firm in the present, without depending on future guarantees. These people didn't wait for the world to make their path easier. They walked, even when the road was rocky, because they knew. Now is all there is, and those who don't act now build nothing. There's also a practical force behind this, beyond inspiration. Science shows that our brains respond with more clarity and motivation after action. Movement creates momentum. Initiative generates energy. It's the opposite of what most believe. Clarity doesn't lead to action. Action leads to clarity. One imperfect step now is worth more than 1,000 perfect plans never executed. Philosopher William James put it best. The best way to change something is to start, even without full understanding, because beginning reorganizes the mind. Movement aligns the brain, and suddenly you're in the flow. Not because circumstances changed, but because you stopped waiting and started acting. Applying this in real life is simple, but demands courage. Courage to start the project with what you have, even if you don't know all the details. Courage to leave your comfort zone, even without feeling secure. Courage to take the first step before having guarantees, because that first step opens the path. Those who wait to be ready never will be, because no one feels ready for something bigger than what they're used to. But those who go anyway grow along the way. Act now. Do what you can with what you have. Start small, but start, because what separates those living the life they want from those only dreaming of it is one simple choice: to begin. Not when it's easy, not when it's perfect, but now. 3. Break big goals into small battles. This is one of the most powerful strategies to overcome procrastination paralysis and make consistent progress toward any meaningful goal. Because big goals, while inspiring, are also intimidating. When you look at the size of what you want to achieve, whether it's changing careers, transforming your body, writing a book, getting out of debt, or building a project from scratch, your brain sounds an alarm. This is too much for me. And faced with that sense of overwhelm, the natural tendency is to freeze. The mind, confronted with the immense, paralyzes, and nothing happens. Stoicism understands this deeply. Epictetus taught that mastery over yourself and reality begins with what's within your control. Don't seek to control what's outside. Focus on what you can command. The same applies to goals. Don't try to swallow the world whole. Divide it. Turning the massive into manageable steps is an art and a weapon. Behavioral science confirms this. The brain is far more efficient when working with specific short-term objectives that have a clear beginning, middle, and end. This releases dopamine, the motivation neurotransmitter, not from the final achievement but from continuous progress. It's the movement that keeps us engaged. That's why small daily wins are the key to massive transformations. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, nails this. You don't climb a mountain by staring at the peak. You climb it step by step. And it's that consistent step that keeps you moving, even on bad days. He shows how vague goals like get in shape don't work. But goals like walk 15 minutes every morning right after waking up are clear, doable, and trigger the action. Cycle. This isn't just theory. It's real-world practice. Arnold Schwarzenegger, before becoming a global icon, had daily micro-goals. X reps, X hours of training, X English words studied per day. He didn't wake up thinking, I want to be the greatest bodybuilder in the world. He thought, today I need to give 100% in these exercises. And that daily focus built an empire. J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter in cafes, one chapter at a time, with the little time and energy she had. Her goal wasn't finish a best-selling book. It was write today. One scene, one battle at a time. The secret is there. When you turn a big goal into small battles, something shifts inside you. Your mind starts seeing the possible. Your body responds with action, and you move forward, 1 inch at a time. No need to wait for motivation. No need for miracles. No getting lost in complexity. This practice is doable, even for the self-proclaimed undisciplined. Just ask yourself, what's the smallest step I can take today that still moves me in the right direction? That step doesn't need to be pretty or grand, it just needs to exist, because one small, concrete step is infinitely more valuable than 1,000 motionless intentions. The Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." That's not poetry, it's strategy. And it teaches that the first step, no matter how small or imperfect, is the only thing that opens the path. So instead of drowning in the size of your dreams, turn them into daily missions, into one-day battles, into simple commitments with the present. And before you know it, you'll be closer than you imagined, not by a leap, but by consistency. Greatness is built in the details, in repeated effort, in laying one brick every day, and the discipline of winning. Small battles is what turns any goal, no matter how big, into something absolutely possible. 4. Train in discomfort. Laziness is born from too much comfort. This is a truth few want to hear, but it's what separates the strong from the weak, the achievers from the dreamers. We live in an era engineered to avoid discomfort. Couches are softer, phones are more addictive. Entertainment is one click away. Everything is designed to keep the body still and the mind numb. But this excess of comfort comes at an invisible cost. It weakens us. Laziness doesn't come from a lack of ability. It comes from chronic exposure to easy pleasure and the absence of challenge. A body that only knows comfort rejects effort like an attack. And the more you surrender to convenience, the more your brain convinces itself that any kind of work, effort, or discipline is a threat to well-being. But that's a biological lie, because humans weren't built for eternal comfort. We're shaped by friction, forged in difficulty, transformed by tension. The Stoics knew this over 2,000 years ago. Seneca said, "Accustom yourself to poverty, hunger, and cold, for the one who prepares for the worst will never be ruled by fear." In other words, training in discomfort makes you invincible, and this training is entirely possible even in modern life. It starts with small daily choices, waking up at the time you set, even when it's cold, finishing your workout, even when it hurts, choosing the right food, even when the wrong one is within reach, staying silent when everything in you wants to scream, studying when your mind craves distraction. Each of these choices, no matter how small, trains your mind to understand discomfort doesn't kill you, it strengthens you. David Goggins, former Navy SEAL and a symbol of resilience, talks about this with necessary brutality. He seeks discomfort voluntarily. He runs long distances, trains at his limits, lives outside his comfort zone. Not because he enjoys pain, but because he grasped something few realize. When you train in discomfort, you master fear. When you deliberately put yourself in hard situations, life's ordinary challenges stop shaking you. You become bigger than them. Science backs this up. Neuroplasticity studies show that the brain, when exposed to controlled discomfort, adapts. It creates new connections and becomes more resilient. Stress tolerance increases. Discipline strengthens. Mental clarity improves. Cold, physical effort, boredom, silence. When practiced with intention, these develop parts of your brain atrophied by constant comfort. Viktor Frankl, psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, "Human beings find purpose, especially in suffering. And those who survive emotionally through the greatest tragedies aren't the smartest or most privileged, but the most resilient. And resilience is built. It isn't born ready." You don't need to become a monk or a soldier to apply this. Just invite discomfort deliberately. Take cold showers, walk without your phone, sit in silence for a few minutes, do what needs to be done even when you're tired, hungry, or sore. Say no to easy pleasure. Say yes to what demands more. Because in that space where most quit, the few who persist grow. Laziness is nothing more than a body addicted to comfort, sabotaging your progress. When you train in discomfort, that voice weakens. You discover you're capable of more, much more, and most importantly, you stop being controlled by your feelings and start leading your own will. Discomfort, when chosen consciously, is growth's greatest ally. It pulls you out of passivity. It destroys the illusion that anything will change if you keep choosing the easiest path. And it prepares you, as the Stoics said, not just for hard days, but to become someone no hard day can stop. 5. Write to yourself. Clarity creates action. Few practices are as transformative and yet as underestimated as the simple act of writing. And we're not talking about writing for others. We're talking about writing for you, to see yourself, to understand yourself, to organize your inner world. Because when the mind is confused, the body freezes. But when the mind becomes clear, the body moves. Writing is internal organization. It's like taking the noise out of your head and creating space for conscious decisions, for direction, for action. The Stoics knew this millennia ago. Marcus Aurelius, Rome's emperor, wrote daily reflections that later became meditations, one of history's most read philosophy books. But he wasn't writing to publish. He was writing for himself, to remember what mattered, to review his thoughts, to avoid getting lost in the illusions of power, fear, or external pressure. He wrote to keep his soul steady, and that's exactly what daily writing provides. Inner steadiness, clarity, amid chaos, direction in confusion. When you write, you turn loose thoughts into language, and language is form. It's structure. It's the first step to turning ideas into concrete actions. Those who write see themselves more clearly, and those who see themselves clearly act with more purpose. Modern neuroscience supports this too. Writing activates brain regions linked to decision-making, focus, and self-awareness. Studies show that journaling reduces anxiety, enhances planning skills, and improves emotional regulation. In other words, when you write about what you feel, think, and want, you become more in charge of your mind. You stop being a slave to autopilot. James Pennebaker, an American psychologist and leading researcher on expressive writing, proved in multiple studies that people who regularly write about their thoughts and emotions experience less stress, better immunity, and more clarity to act. It's not magic, it's practice. It's the effect of looking inward with honesty, instead of just reacting to the outside world. And this practice is absolutely doable for anyone. You don't need to be a writer, you don't need perfect prose, you just need honesty. Start with 5 minutes a day. Write what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you need to resolve, what's blocking you, what you want to build. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What's my focus today? What threw me off yesterday? And write, no filter, no judgment, because when you write with raw honesty, you activate a kind of mental mirror, and you start understanding yourself as you really are, not as you wish to appear. This is exactly what high achievers do. Tim Ferriss, author of The 4-Hour Workweek, writes daily to organize what he calls mental noise. Naval Ravikant, investor and modern philosopher, recommends journaling as an essential practice for anyone seeking freedom from conditioning. Even Oprah Winfrey, known for her emotional strength, often speaks about how personal writing helped her through life's hardest moments. They don't write for the world, they write for themselves, and that's the key. Writing to yourself is an act of self-care, of inner discipline, of mental hygiene, because there's no real action without clarity, and no clarity without pause, reflection, or the habit of looking inward. An unexamined mind becomes a tangle of desires, fears, and distractions. But a mind that observes itself, organizes itself, a mind that writes, commits, and the body follows. Writing is a silent power ritual. It's you with you. It's the moment where chaos becomes direction, and where words, instead of impressing others, set you free. If this video sparked something inside you, if it lit that fire that makes you want to change, rise, act, then take a deep breath and recognize you're among the few who choose awareness over comfort. Be grateful for that. Not everyone faces themselves with honesty, but with that gratitude comes responsibility. The responsibility to not let this calling fade. The responsibility to apply, day after day, these practices that put you back in control of your life. Your transformation starts now, not tomorrow, not when everything's perfect, but here, in the next step you choose to take. And remember, everything you've learned today is a seed, but it's up to you to cultivate it. On this channel, we bring together the most essential tools for those who want to live with depth, awareness, and courage. If you feel you were born for more than just survival, if you sense you need to live with purpose, presence, and inner strength, this is your space. Here we don't sell shortcuts. We share practices, ideas, and reflections that help you become unshakable. So if this content resonated with you, subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, and come back often, because your journey is just beginning and you're not alone. Let's grow.